Now, Terry, still with you now here. What do you make of the latest Newspoll? As I explained, it's showing real trouble spots for Labor in Victoria and New South Wales. How much of a concern do you think this will be to the Albanese government?
Well, I'd be very surprised, Caroline, if the Labor government's private polling is actually showing anything different. That the thing about this Newspoll analysis that the Australian has done is it's showing that Labor is losing support right across the board with women, with particularly that 35-49 age group, the mortgage belt Australians. So the older Australians, yes, they tend to favour Conservatives in the coalition, but younger Australians are also coming back towards the right, although not in sufficient numbers. Look, I think the reality is that if Labor is thinking that it is going to win majority government in whenever it is, March or April, is my prediction, they're dreaming. They're absolutely dreaming. I mean, I think the best result for them is a weak minority government, and there's actually a chance of a coalition boil-over because when the coalition hits 40% in New South Wales and it's knocking on the door of 40% consistently nationally, that's getting into a winning position.
Well, look, I hope you're right, because I think what could be worse than this Labor government is a minority government with the Greens or the Teals. But Michael, the polling also shows that the Greens have shed younger voters to Labor, and the minor party is struggling to rebuild the support it enjoyed at the last election. How much of that do you put down to the Greens' stance on the Middle East?
Well, that's the encouraging news in this Newspoll, Caroline, that their support is down. What would you expect from a person whose thesis was on Soviet jurisprudence? That's Adam Bandt. Adam Bandt has changed the environmental, climate change Green Party into a keffiyeh-wearing bunch of Marxists. And I think a lot of Australians, including young Australians, think he's gone a bridge too far. So we saw them go down in their support in the New South Wales council elections, in the ACT and Queensland state elections. Let's hope that process continues. I think it will in Queensland at the federal election. That may benefit Labor slightly. But the Libs have to get more than 50-50 in Victoria and New South Wales if they're going to win. I think the Teals here are very well dug in, and in New South Wales. And you're right that Australia has a bad government at the moment, but it could get worse with a Teals-Greens minority government in alliance with Albo, or probably his successor, Tanya Plibersek, because if he loses 12 seats, he'll probably be dumped.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be very hard for him to hold on, but it's very much a case of be careful what you wish for in some respects. Now, let's move on to Victorian politics now. And embattled Liberal leader John Pesutto is set to face a major leadership test in a high-stakes party room meeting tomorrow. Now, Pesutto has reportedly been refusing to bow down out of this top job, despite his future looking increasingly shaky. Terry, do you see him remaining leader of the Victorian Liberals by the weekend?
Well, certainly it's good to see politicians working just after Christmas, isn't it, Caroline? But not
Tell
really
me about
in this
it. It's
way.
very hard to get them on the show at the moment.
And I'm speaking as a member, rank and file member of the Victorian Liberal Party too, I should declare that. But really what we have here is a schmozzle. John Pesutto, the current leader, is calling a meeting tomorrow. Now, has actually been forced to call a meeting tomorrow because 5 members have petitioned for it, where there will be a spill of leadership. It's reported that Brad Batten, the Shadow Police Minister, has rung him today to say, well, mate, it's on. And he's obviously, if he's done that, he believes he has the numbers. But really, I just think it's an absolute dog's breakfast. It's a schmozzle. I mean, John Pesutto and what he did in pushing out Moira Deeming last year made his own bed, and now he's going to lie in it. But Brad Batten as a replacement, he's a nice bloke, I have to say, but he's not, doesn't really impress me as a potential premier. And I think if that's the choice, we're Victorian Liberals in a bad space. But if we're talking about nationally, the Liberal Party has to be healthy in Victoria. It has to be able to campaign. It has to be able to back the candidates that it wants to actually win those seats it needs to get Peter Dutton over the line in one way or another. And at the moment, I just can't see that happening. I think the best thing about tomorrow is actually whatever the result is, it's going to hopefully cauterise the wound for the Victorian Liberals, so they actually knuckle down and get on with the job of being a competitive opposition to well, talk about bad governance. I think the one we have down here in Victoria is absolutely pathetic, but also backing Peter Dutton in to win in a few months' time, whether it's minority or majority.